Hello and welcome to the channel. As always, like the video, and if you enjoyed the story, leave a comment on if you would want more. This fan fiction was not created by me, but in the description there is a link to the fanfic so you can show your support to the creator and read along. Without any more delay, let's dive into the story.
It was a quiet day in Konoha as the fifth Hokage, Tsunade, waited by the main gate waiting for the return of her teammate and her favorite blonde shinobi from their 3-year training mission. Tsunade just sighed and stared out onto the horizon. She did not look like she had changed at all over the past 3 years. After waiting a little bit, she noticed a figure heading towards the gate. It was her former teammate Jiraiya of the Sannin approaching alone. "Hello Jiraiya, welcome back, and where is Naruto?" asked Tsunade sweetly. Jiraiya started to sweat heavily. "Well, you see Hisatwith." At first Tsunade just smiled and nodded, then she punched Jiraiya with a chakra-enhanced fist, sending him a good 20 feet backwards. Everyone around the gate noticed an evil aura coming from the Hokage. "What do you mean he is not with you? Talk quickly before my fist decides to greet you back in its own personal way." Jiraiya started to sweat even harder than before. "Well, you see, he said he had an emergency that he had to take care of before he came back. I went to ask, but he knocked me out and disappeared." Suddenly, there was a small puff of smoke appeared beside Jiraiya, revealing a small, orange toad. "Yo, I have a message from Naruto-san for you too." The toad cleared its throat and said, "Naruto-san says because of a personal emergency, he says he will return in 1 year. That is all, we'll see you later." With that, the toad disappeared in a puff of smoke. Jiraiya sighed before slowly getting to his feet and looking at Tsunade. "Well, there you go, Tsunade, there is nothing we can do but wait." Tsunade just sighed and nodded before the two Sannins made their way back to the Hokage's tower. "So how much has Naruto grown over the past 3 years?" XXXXX. 1 year later. Izumo and Kotetsu sat there at the gate board. Konoha in their minds has been quiet ever since Uzumaki Naruto left. No one really knew why he did not return with Jiraiya a year ago. "Hey Izumo, you know what?" asked Kotetsu. "What?" replied Izumo, sounding a little annoyed. "I'm bored," said Kotetsu. Izumo growled in annoyance and banged his head on the table in front of them. He then looked up and noticed 2 figures approaching the gate. One was a female, had long black hair and chocolate brown eyes. She wore a royal blue kimono that hugged her curves perfectly. She stood 5 feet 4 inches and walked with such grace it was mesmerizing. Next to her stood a man standing 5 feet 10 inches and giving off an aura of strength and confidence. He wore a pair of black pants and a black button shirt and a black trench coat with a red swirl design on the back of it. He wore a black fedora that covered most of his face from everyone looking at his from the front. He had a long katana strapped to his waist and a large sword strapped to his back. "Stop, state your business here," said Izumo when the two arrived. The male turned, and the 2 Chunins noticed a leaf headband on his right arm. "Here is my passport," he said before handing it over to Kotetsu. Kotetsu then noticed the name on the passport. His eyes grew bigger. "Welcome back, Naruto. Please, it has been too boring as hell. We need another one of your pranks," said Kotetsu, almost pleading. Naruto just sighed as he took back his passport and sighed. "Sorry boys, can't, the wife would kill me," he said, pointing his thumb behind him at the woman he walked up with. Both Izumo and Kotetsu leaned over to see the one Naruto pointed and blushed at the sight. "Damn Naruto, how did you get someone like her to be with you?" asked Kotetsu. The woman walked up beside Naruto and sweetly said, "So what, I am a trophy wife, and he only married me because of my figure." Both Chunins started to sweat bullets. Naruto chuckled before wrapping his arm around her shoulders. "Be nice, Haku dear, and don't make them shit their pants yet. You know that I did not choose you for that, but it is a nice plus." Haku blushed slightly at Naruto's remark. Izumo motioned Naruto to lean forward, which he did. "Okay, first, sorry, but give us some tips here, sensei." All Naruto could do was shake his head and try not to bust out laughing. "Sorry boys, but that is something that all men have to learn on their own. Trust me, you will find someone one day. Good luck, you two. Now let's go see the old hag." "Ouch. Haku, what was that for?" asked Naruto, rubbed his head where Haku had smacked him. What have I told you about calling her that? Glared Haku before they started to walk down the road towards Hokage Tower. I know, sorry. Well, shall we show her the surprise that will send her into the next century? Asked Naruto, showing his patented fox smile. Haku couldn't help but smile at her husband's antics. I can't wait to finally meet the famous Tsunade of the Sannin. You think she will like our little surprise? Haku emphasized that one word, smiling. Naruto smiled and looked up at Hokage Mountain. Oh, I know she will. So shall we make our entrance? Haku nodded, and the two of them walked on until they reached the Hokage's office door. Naruto opened the door to see the desk covered in paper. They could hear someone behind the mountain muttering curses. Hey Haku, you might want to move to the side a little bit. So Bachan, how is the paperwork? Tsunade, the fifth Hokage, had finally drifted off to sleep after working for 3 hours straight on paperwork with no end in sight, when someone walked in and called her old. In a blink of a second, she had crossed the room and punched the source of the sound and sent him flying through her door and into the hallway. Then it clicked in her head what she had just done. She turned to see a young woman with her arms in front of her, like she was holding something precious. She was wearing a beautiful kimono and had long black hair and chocolate brown eyes. The girl looked back into the hallway with a worried look on her face. You okay, honey? Soon a young blonde-haired man walked back into the room, brushing off the dusted off his clothes. Yeah, I'm fine. She was actually holding back on me for some reason. Yo, Bachan, that was some welcome. The young woman walked over and slapped the blonde across his head. What have I told you about saying that, especially in front of Erasure? Sorry, Haku. Well, I'm back, Tsunade-sama, replied the blonde. Haku smiled and turned to see the confused look on her face. Tsunade studied the young man standing in front of her. For some reason, he looked familiar and yet not. She noticed the leaf headband strapped to his arm. She only knows a few people who had yellow hair that were Konoha shinobi. Then it hit her like a ton of bricks. She knew this young man. Naruto. Naruto smiled and scratched the back of his neck with his trademark fox grin. So you finally recognized me, Tsunade. Oh, I want you to meet my wife Haku. She was part of the reason that I did not come straight back with Jiraiya. But you might want to sit down for the next part. Tsunade nodded before walking back around and sat down behind her desk. Naruto and Haku sat down in the chairs opposite of Tsunade. Okay, first thing first, I am sorry for not coming straight back with Jiraiya, but there were circumstances. Naruto looked over at Haku and smiled. Tsunade could not help but smile at the couple in front of her. Her little brother had grown up, found a loving wife. Okay, so what were the circumstances? Naruto and Haku looked at each other and smiled before Haku shifted her arms to reveal a small bundle of cloth in her arms. Tsunade leaned forward and gasped. In Haku's arm was a small infant. He looked a lot like Naruto, a small amount of yellow hair and skin tone. He did not have his father's whisker marks. The infant slowly opened his eyes to reveal his mother's chocolate brown eyes. Tsunade, meet our child, Uzumaki Erasure. Erasure means storm. You see, right before we planned to return to Konoha, Haku wrote to me saying she was pregnant with my child. When I heard, I raced back to wave to stay by her side. Tsunade smiled at Naruto's response. May I hold him? Haku nodded and handed little Erasure over to her. Erasure yawned and fell asleep in her arms. So, I take it that you two want to settle down here. Well, that is the general idea, but I am worried about what the council will do to little Erasure when they hear about him. But here is the list of all my skills, and also I want what is rightfully mine. Tsunade froze up hearing this and stared at Naruto. So you figured it out? Who told you? Actually, the QB told me before he left. Don't worry, she already knows about him, replied Naruto. Tsunade nodded before handing little Erasure, still sleeping, back over to Haku. The young couple got up and exited the office and checked into a hotel for the night. The next day, Tsunade called a council meeting but did not tell what the meeting was about. Thank you for all coming on short notice. Now, let's get this meeting started. Just the other day, a certain shinobi returned from his extended training trip. The one in question is none other Uzumaki Naruto. At the mention of his name, the civilian part of the council started to yell for the demon's head. The shinobi side looked on with a neutral face. So you are asking for him to be tested to find his rank? Asked Hyuga Hayashi. Tsunade nodded before clearing her throat. Not only that, but he currently asked for his heritage to officially be given to him. There I am hereby announcing his parentage. He is the son of Uzumaki Kushina and Natsume Minato, also known as the fourth Hokage. In my hands is the official birth certificate and the scroll the fourth left in case of this. Several members of the Shinobi Council smiled, while the civilian side roared in opposition. Tsunade punched her desk, nearly cracking it in half. That is enough. You are so blind by your fear that you never put one and one together and get the answer. His assessment test will be held tomorrow at Training Ground 7 at noon. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Tsunade calmly made her way towards the hotel that Naruto and his family had checked into last night. As she walked down the main road, she noticed her assistant Shizen walking out of a store with Hyuga Hinata, Ino, and Uchiha Sakura behind her talking about gossip. Shizen noticed Tsunade and followed, as well did the girls. Haku woke up and noticed that Naruto was not in bed. She got out of bed and put on her robe and walked out into the den to find Naruto sleeping in one of the recliners with Erasure on top of his chest, sleeping comfortably. Haku heard a knock on the door, which she answered to see a group with the Hokage in front. "Good morning, Tsunade-sama, and who are you?" "Good morning, Haku. This is my assistant Shizun, Hyuga Hinata, Uchiha Sakura, and Ino. Where is Naruto?" replied Tsunade, smiling. The girls looked stunned. Naruto is back when? Haku quickly put a finger to her lips. "Quiet, they are still sleeping. This way, please, and do not touch the swords." Haku pointed to some swords placed in a corner of the room. The group walked into the den to see Naruto still fast asleep with Erasure on his chest. Everyone but Tsunade and Haku quietly screamed, "Cute." A few minutes later, Naruto started to wake up. He smiled when he looked down at Erasure. Haku walked over and carefully picked up Erasure to allow Naruto to get up. Naruto got up and stretched, his joints popping. He looked over to see all of the guests blushing. Naruto then noticed that his shirt he wore at night was open. Naruto just shrugged it off and kissed Haku on the lips before turning to Tsunade. "Morning, Tsunade, what can I do for you?" Tsunade smiled before sitting down in a chair. "I am here to inform you on some things. Your rank assessment test will be held today at noon at Training Ground 7. Also, the council has also granted that. Here is the scroll that has all of the information you need." She handed Naruto a good-sized scroll. "Hey Naruto, what is with that scroll over there?" asked Ino. Ino had grown over the past 4 years. Her hair was back down to her waist, pulled back in a ponytail. She wore a two-piece purple outfit with fishnet underneath. She was working in the interrogation department with her dad. She also studied under Tsunade a little in medical techniques. Hinata had also grown over the years. She had let her hair down that went midway down her back. She still wore a large jacket. She had been offered the position as Tsunade's apprentice. She had made leaps and bounds in both her medical jutsu and juken. Sakura had probably changed the least of the group. Her hair had only grown a little bit. Her chest had filled out a little bit, but not as much as her friends. When Sasuke finally returned, they got together, and within a year they were engaged and then married. She also trained under Tsunade, but not so much as Hinata, which she found unjust. Naruto turned and noticed the scroll she was talking about. It was a small scroll that was placed on a coffee table. Every once in a while it would pulse a blue light, then fade. It gave off an aura of power. "Oh, that is a gift from an old friend, don't worry about it." "So Tsunade, who am I going up against?" "You will be up against Guy in Taijutsu, Kakashi in Ninjutsu, and an Ianbu in Kenjutsu. This will determine what shinobi rank you will be. I will be there, and so will several members of the Shinobi Council. Good luck, Naruto, you are going to need it," replied Tsunade before getting up. "Don't worry, I have enough surprises you all guessing. What time is it?" "It is 10 o'clock, I still have some time to plan." With that, Naruto walked back into the bedroom and pulled out some scrolls. "Well, that is that. And cut cliffhanger no jutsu. Sorry, could not help but do it. X time skip 2 hours X." Naruto, Haku, and Erasure arrived at the training grounds a few minutes before noon, and already there were several people there. Tsunade, Shizun, and several members of the Shinobi Council were there talking with each other. The rest of Naruto's graduating class were there, including Team 9, and the Sand siblings were there waiting. Naruto gave Haku a quick kiss on the lips and walked out into the training ground. Several of the girls there were muttering about his appearance. Naruto just shrugged it off and started to stretch his arms and legs. A few seconds later, a cat-masked female, Yanbiyu Shushin, into the training ground next to the Hokage. Guy then stepped forward, as did Kakashi. Tsunade then cleared her throat and said, "Now that all of the examiners are her, we can now begin Naruto's rank assessment test. First off will be Kenjutsu." With that, the female Yanbiyu walked forward and calmly unsheathed her sword and got in a stance. "Hello again, Nico-chan, it has been a while, hasn't it?" asked Naruto while calmly drawing his katana from his waist. Naruto held it high around shoulder level, but pointed the blade down at an angle. "That is, has Naruto, let's see what you can do with that blade of yours," replied the Yanbiyu. "Sorry, but this is not a blade but a fang." "Hey Nico-chan, sorry about this." Neither one of them moved for at least a few minutes. The only thing that seemed to happen was that the wind had slowly started to pick up. Asuma was the first to figure something out. "Nico, move now." Naruto smirked before he disappears a large gust of wind and soon reappeared behind Nico. Without any warning, Nico's sword blade was sliced in 5 different spots. She then let out a soft scream in pain when 40 to 50 slices ripped all over her body. She then collapsed on the ground in pain. Naruto calmly wiped the blood that was on the very tip of his blade before sheathing his katana. "Naruto, what was that?" yelled Tsunade. "Hey Haku, do you have one of those with you?" Haku nodded and reached in her weapon's pouch and pulled out a small turquoise orb. She quickly tossed it to Naruto. "That was one of my middle-level Kenjutsu techniques called Maboroshi Gufu, Phantom Hurricane. 1 minute, let me heal her first." Naruto focused some chakra into the small orb in his hand, which started to glow a dull green color. Naruto turned his hand over, and the ball stuck to the palm of his hand. Naruto passed his hand over the fallen Yanbiyu, healing all of her wounds. Before you ask, Tsunade-sama, that is a special tool Naruto-kun came up with that allows even the people with chakra control worse than a monkey to perform medical ninjutsus. Inside the sphere is a complex seal array that focuses the chakra and turns it into the type you need for medical ninjutsu. I am not completely sure where he got the idea, but he made them for me and him for trips, explained Haku after she saw the look on Tsunade's face. Tsunade could only nod dumbly. Naruto made a few clones and carefully carried the Yanbiyu over to the crowd, who were surprised by his technique. He then handed the small orb back to Haku and gave her a quick peck on the cheek. "So who wants to be next?" Naruto closed his eyes and opened them to reveal they had changed to something like the Sharingan. But before anyone could say anything, they had changed back to their normal blue color. Guy stepped forward and smiled. "I guess I am up then." Naruto nodded and walked back out into the clearing. "Very well, but my opinion is that you drop all of your weight cause you are going to need the extra speed to beat me." Guy looked at Naruto and could tell he was being serious about this. Guy calmly, which was something unusual for him, undid his leg weights and tossed them to the side, creating 2 large craters upon impact with the ground. "Shall we start?" With that, he disappeared in a burst of pure speed. Naruto stood there in a loose stance, not moving. Without any warning, he moved his hands into a blocking position right as Guy appeared beside him to try and kick him, only to have it blocked easily. Guy then disappeared again, only to have his next attack blocked in a similar fashion. Guy jumped back and released the first gate and dashed towards Naruto, releasing 2 more gates as he did. Naruto just smirked as he caught Guy's punch and twirled around and delivered an elbow to the back of Guy's head. Naruto whisper, shock club, reverse elbow from Muay Thai fighting style. Guy went head first into the ground from the blow. Guy got up to see a fist plunge itself into his chest, sending him flying backwards into the trees. "Sorry Guy-sensei, but I want to end this now." Heben Han, Heaven Seal, first gate Kai. Right after he said this, chakra suddenly erupted out of Naruto's right arm. Think of Chad from Bleach when his spiritual energy is coming from his arm. Naruto cocked his arm ready to punch him, but he slammed his hand into the ground. The result was the ground erupting just like Tsunade when she punches the ground, only bigger. Most of the spectators' jaws were hanging around their ankles. In their heads, they were thinking about how screwed they were for messing with him all those years ago, since he just beat Konoha's best Kenjutsu and Taijutsu users. Well, it looks like I am finally up then. Don't hold back on me, Naruto, said Kakashi, walking up. Naruto just smirked with his back to Kakashi, then closed his eyes. I wouldn't dream about doing that, Kakashi-sensei. He emphasized the sensei part with some venom in his voice. Kakashi flinched at that. Naruto quickly turned around to reveal his eyes had completely changed. They looked remarkably similar to the Sharingan, only with a silver cross in the center. Now you see my bloodline Henbohado, Heaven's Edge. So shall we start this? I do have things I need to do today. Over on the sideline, Yugao slowly removed her cat mask and looked down at her body to see no wounds. Yeah, I hurt, but I am fine. What happened? Yugao slowly. Over on the sidelines, the Yin Bu started to wake up. Kurenai knelt beside her and quietly asked, "Are you okay, Yugao?" Yugao slowly removed her cat mask and looked down at her body to see no wounds. Yeah, I hurt, but I am fine. What happened? Kurenai gave a sigh of relief that her friend was okay. You were beaten in one technique. Naruto then healed you, and then took out Guy in an extreme taijutsu fight. Kakashi is about to start, and he just showed his bloodline. Yugao nodded before looking over at the two ninjas staring each other down. Kakashi started off by firing a large fireball at Naruto, who easily dodged it. Naruto created several shadow clones and tried to corner Kakashi, but he destroyed all of the clones. Naruto was still standing where he was originally started. Kakashi-sensei, let's wrap this up. Naruto stamped his foot on the ground, sending a large bluish chirka pulse through the ground. Many times I have withstood enormous pain to make thousands of weapons. And yet those hands have braved so much will never hold anything. And so as I pray now, I call forth unlimited blade works. If you can't place this, it is from Fate Stay Night with Archer versus Berserker. I don't own this. There was a large flash of yellow light that blinded everyone for a few seconds. When everyone was able to see again, they noticed that they were not in the training grounds anymore, or even in Konoha for that matter. Everyone looked around in fear and awe at their new surroundings. They were in a rocky gorge with hundreds upon thousands of swords impaled in the ground. There were also several giant gears that hung in the sky all around them. Naruto stood off to the side of Kakashi and smirked. He pulled out what looked like a broadsword until it curved near the tip. As you can see, you face unlimited blades, the pinnacle of weaponry. Well, what are you waiting for? Kakashi finally snapped out of his stupor and pulled out a kunai and braced himself. Naruto dashed forward at high speeds and looked. He was dancing around Kakashi, grabbing several swords here and there. Naruto suddenly stopped and smiled as the realm they were in disappeared, and they found themselves back in the training grounds. Tsunade was the first to ask, "Was that an illusion?" "A jinjutsu, please. I suck so bad at those. Even an academy student is better than me. Just ask him. Oh, and sorry about the mess," replied Naruto, walking towards Haku. Tsunade looked at him with a puzzled look before blood erupted out from all of the cuts covering Kakashi. Tsunade ran over with Shizune and started to heal him frantically. Naruto walked over and started to play with Erasure in Haku's arms. Hayashi was first to speak. "So that ends the assessment exam. We will adjourn till tomorrow at noon. Uzumaki Naruto, you will be asked to attend. Until then, have a good day." Naruto bowed and him and Haku left the grounds, leaving everyone still shaken up at the power their teammate just showed. "Is it just me, or did it seem that he was holding back during all of that?" asked Shikamaru. "I am glad he is on our side. I thought I was going to shit myself just then," said Kiba. Akamaru barked in agreement. "Okay, I did not need to hear that just now. Looks like he is a different man now, and not the same person you grew up with," replied Kiba's mom. Everyone nodded in agreement. Konoha just got a little bit more interesting again. Tsunade and Shizune finally finished. They turned to see that the guys had dragged Naruto off. Tsunade sighed and had an ENBU take Kakashi back to his apartment to rest. Tsunade turned to the girls still there who were awing over little Erasure playing in Hinata's arms. Well, then I think we should talk, said Tsunade, smiling at the sight in front of her. All of the girls nodded, and they soon found themselves back at Haku's and Naruto's apartment drinking tea and talking about random things. Hinata and Ino were playing with Erasure next to Haku. Hey Haku, I have been wondering, how did you survive? I thought Kakashi-sensei ran you through with his Chidori, asked Sakura. Haku took a quick sip of her tea before replying. Tsunade-sama, do they know of it yet? Tsunade nodded without making any noise. Well, since you all know of the QB, you might be happy to know it is gone and has been for little over 4 years. Haku laughed at the shocked expressions on everyone's faces. Well, you see, after your dear sensei killed me with that jutsu, Naruto took Zabuza's and my bodies to be buried. For some reason, while he was doing this, the QB called out to the Shinigami and made a deal, his soul for mine. The Shinigami agreed and revived me. Naruto, seeing this, was overjoyed but soon collapsed from exhaustion. Soon afterwards, he asked Tazuna and Tsunami to take care of me. Everyone was shocked about how the young woman in front of them calmly explained her miraculous revival. Sakura was the first to recover and screamed. If the QB was removed, then how did he go QB during the Chunin exam and fighting with Sasuke-kun? Haku shook her head and tried to regain her hearing. Are you part howler monkey or something? The answer is quite simple. He used what was left over from the QB. When the Shinigami removed the QB, some of his chakra remained in Naruto chakra system. The fight with your precious Sasuke-kun exhausted all of his remaining demon chakra. Yugao, how are you feeling? You look a little sore? Asked Shizune. Yugao smiled before her face scrunched up in pain. Yeah, a little bit. Those medical orbs did a good job, but it still hurts. But what was that technique? That is one of Naruto's kenjutsu techniques that he created. He calls it Mabaroshi Gufu, Phantom Hurricane. He uses futon chakra not only in his body but around him and his target, creating a bubble of air that can propel him around silently and quickly. Oh, and sorry about your sword, Yugao, replied Haku. It is okay, it was only a training sword. So he created that technique. Is there any way he can teach me? Asked Yugao happily. She sat there daydreaming about learning that technique. Haku thought for a moment while sipping from her tea. You will have to talk with Naruto, since it is part of our clan techniques. It is easily an A-rank technique because of the control you need to perform it. Yugao looked down at Haku's response. She knew that clan techniques are normal, never shared. Ino, after smiling again at Erasure, turned and asked, so how did you and Naruto hook up again? Haku smiled and leaned back and stared off into space. We had kept in touch by mail after he left Wave. During his second year with Jiraiya-sama, they visited Wave and we met up again. We went on several dates along the months there in between training and small-time missions. They left Wave after spending 6 months there and moved on to another country to train. Then Naruto insisted that they return to Wave a year later. Haku leaned back in her chair and started to stare off into space. The others were hanging on the edge of their seats. Tintin was the first to speak up. Okay, so what happened? Flashback, no jutsu. Haku had just gotten home from the grocery store when she heard a knock at the door. 1 minute, I'll be right there. Haku opened the door to reveal a young man in his late teens, roughly her own age. He had sun-kissed yellow hair and beautiful blue eye. Can I help you? She asked while hoping that it would be a certain someone she had fell in love with. Oh God, please let him be Naruto-kun. What are you not happy to see me again? You were crying at the fact I had to leave a year ago, asked the man at the door. Haku's eye grew at that statement and stepped back while the man calmly walked in. And Naruto, is that you? The man smiled as he took a good look at Haku for the first time. She looked very beautiful. She was filled out in all the right places. She had on an ice blue-colored Chinese-style shirt with a silver Asian lung dragon design on it. She was also wearing a royal blue skirt that ended a few inches below her knees. Hello Hakuheim, I'm home. Haku's eyes started to tear up as she leaps over and wraps her arms around him, nearly knocking him over. She then smashes her lips against his. After a few minutes of kissing, they separated and stared into each other's eyes. Oh Kami, Naruto, I missed you, she said before kissing him again. After they separated again, Naruto smiled before saying, I did too, my dear. Oh, how I miss your voice. Oh, I got something for you while we were in Spring Country. Naruto reached in one of his coat pockets and pulled out a jewelry box and handed it to her. Love you, my Yuki Megami, snow goddess. Haku blushed at her new nickname as she slowly opened the box. Inside was a beautiful pearl snowflake pendant with a diamond in the middle. Haku could not help but be in awe of the piece she was holding. She leaned over and kissed him again. Thank you, Naruto, I love it. In her mind, she was thinking something else. Damn, look at those muscles. Oh, Cammy, I want to just fuck him right now, but oh, you know what, fuck it. Naruto smiled and was about to say something, but Haku placed one finger on his lips, shushing him. She then gave a small smirk before grabbing him by his collar and basically dragging him into her bedroom. She stopped when she reached the foot of her bed and gave him a quick kiss before pushing him on the bed. She then got on top of him right above his half-erected member. Oh, so little Haku wants to play, said a husky male voice behind her. Haku turned around to see another Naruto standing behind her smiling. But before she could say anything, she felt two pairs of hands slip under her shirt and start messaging her breasts. You aren't we a bad girl wearing no bra in the middle of the day? Haku couldn't help but moan as he continues to message her breasts. The Naruto underneath Haku smirked before leaning up and kissing her roughly. Haku started to moan again while her heart was pounding 1,000 beats per second. After Naruto stopped kissing her, he quickly removed her shirt and leaned back and was in awe of the goddess sitting on top of him. Everything about her made him want her. And part of him was yelling for him to take her, but the other side was telling him to stop. Haku then slid her hands under his shirt, caressing his chest muscle. Are you sure you want to do this, my beautiful Yuki Megami? I want nothing more than to do this. I love you, Naruto. She put a finger over his lips. Now quit talking and start kissing, replied Haku before kissing him again. Naruto then started to suck and kiss the side of her neck, making her moan louder. Naruto slowly made his way down towards her breast after dismissing his clone. Naruto started to suck on her breast, making her moan even more. He then started to nip at her erected nipples. Haku let out a small scream from the pleasure. Oh fuck yes, Naruto, don't stop. Naruto alternated to the other breast and repeated what he did. As he continued, she felt something wrap around her waist. She looked behind her to see another clone. The clone slipped his hands under her skirt and started to rub her womanhood, causing her to moan even louder. After continuing for a few more minutes, Haku came while screaming in pleasure. Naruto. Naruto smiled as he dispelled his clone. Haku got up. Haku, I am going to come, exclaimed Naruto, loving every second of this. Haku's eyes went big as Naruto came in her mouth. After swallowing the last of his cum, she looked over at Naruto, her eyes. I love you, Haku-chan. I love you too, Naruto-kun. Flashback, no jutsu kai? Haku leaned back in her chair, smiling as she retold her story. Everyone was hanging on to her every word. Tintin was the first to speak up. And what then? Everyone nodded in agreement, wanting to know what happened next. Flashback, no jutsu again. So you ready for this, Haku? Haku just nodded as Naruto laid he on her bed and positioned his member in front of her wet womanhood. Naruto took one more look at his lover and only saw determination and love in her eyes. He then grabbed her hips and started to push his hard member into her slowly. Her face scrunched up in pain and pleasure as his member strained against her barrier. Naruto looked up at Haku, who just nodded. With one hard thrust, Naruto plunged his member into Haku's womanhood, breaking her barrier. Haku let out a scream, but it was muffled as Naruto kissed her. I'm okay, just go slow, said Haku after a few minutes. Naruto started to pull it out, then thrust it back in slow at first, but eventually quickening the pace. Haku could not help but moan his name as he continued. After a good 15 minutes, Haku came so hard that she jumped, nearly pulling him out of her. Naruto took this moment and grabbed her and pulled her back, thrusting his hard member deeper into her womanhood. Soon Naruto came, filling her with his seeds. Haku, panting slightly, flipped him off her and started to straddle Naruto. Haku smiled as she moved his still hard member under her dripping wet pussy and slid it inside. Haku screamed out his name again before she started grinding her hips against his. This caused him to moan slightly before he cupped her breasts with his hands and started to message them, making her moan even louder. Naruto decided to up the ante and focus some chakra into the tip of his hard member. With one good push, Haku arched her back as a wave of pleasure surged through her body. They continued for another 6 hours before the two of them collapsed beside each other, panting slightly. Haku could not feel anything from the waist down, but she didn't mind. She laid her head on top of Naruto's chest, and soon they drifted off to sleep. Flashback: no Jutsu Kai? After Haku explained what happened, most of the girls were drooling about how long they went. She couldn't help but snicker at the sight. What's wrong? Ino, who had stopped playing with Erasure halfway through Haku's narration, was the first to speak up. You mean to say you had sex with Naruto for over 6 hours straight? Damn, who knew that the Naruto we knew would be such a beast in the sack? Haku sighed before saying firmly, "Don't you dare think about it, he is mine." Plus, 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 meanwhile with the guys plus, 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 plus. While Haku and the girls were hanging out back at the apartment, the guys dragged Naruto to a local bar in order to catch up. Naruto had grown accustomed to drink because of having Jiraiya for a sensei. Kiba ordered a few bottles of sake before returning to their table. "So Naruto, please tell us, how did you get someone like her to even look at you?" asks Kiba after pouring him a small saucer of sake. Naruto just smiled before saying, "I just acted normally, and it works. Just be yourself, and you will find someone that truly loves you. I wouldn't trade Haku for anything in the world. So how is everyone?" Shikamaru answered, "Troublesome. Well, Niji, Shino, and Lee are now Jonin, and everyone except you are Chunitsu. I am currently engaged with Temari. Shino is engaged to someone in his clan, same with Niji. But to tell you the truth, it has been really quiet without you here. I am seeing someone right now and training to take over as head of my clan, but yet has been quiet," said Kiba after taking another sip of sake. "Chuji is dating Ino right now. Lee is still single and crazy. Let me guess, he has actually gotten worse. But where is Lee? I didn't see him earlier," asked Naruto. "His Jinin team was out on a C-rank mission to Wave. They should be back either tomorrow or the next day," replied Niji. Naruto gave a small shudder. "Those poor kids, it is amazing they are still sane." Everyone laughed at his statement. "Hey Dobe, how did you do that last technique against Kakashi?" demanded Sasuke. You say something, team," replied Naruto in a monotone voice. Inwardly, Naruto was laughing as he could hear the tick on Sasuke's forehead grows. "Oh, that technique, that was AB level technique with my bloodline. So no, I can't teach you, and even if I could, I wouldn't teach a thief." Sasuke was using every fiber in his being to keep calm in his mind, which is him vibrating with anger. How dare he call me a thief? I am an Uchiha, an elite ninja. He should be proud to give me his techniques. I will learn how he got that power. Kakashi and Naruto sighed as they saw several expressions race across Sasuke's face. Everyone else just shook their heads like this was normal. Asuma got up and ordered some more sake for the group, while Kakashi just opened up his trusted Aika Paradise book. Naruto looked at the book before sighing and downing his cup of sake. "Well guys, I am heading back to my apartment. I have something important to do, and I need a few things there." After saying goodbye to everyone, Naruto made his way back to his apartment. When he arrived, Haku was just ending her story. As he walked in, he smiled, and silent made his way around to her and wrapped his arms around her. "So having a good time, my Yuki Megami?" Haku smiled and leaned back and rested her head on his chest. "Yeah, but I miss talking with Tsunami-san. Have you talked with Hikari-sama or Otusen, father, yet?" "Not yet, but their messenger should be here soon." "Oh, there they are now." Everyone turned to see a crack slowly appear in the middle of the hallway, halfway up and away from any surface. Everyone except for Naruto and Haku were starting to worry as the crack started to grow bigger and intense light was coming through. A few minutes later, a large red fox with 4 tails, think about half the size of Akamaru after the 3-year time skip, casually walked into the room. "Hello, Hiro, how are you doing?" Hiro turned and looked up at Naruto, still holding Haku, and gave a feral grin. "Hello, Naruto-sama, Haku-sama, I am fine. I have Hikari-sama's message." Hiro lifted one of his tails, holding a medium-sized scroll, then tossed it over, and Naruto easily caught it. "Thank you, Hiro. Please send my regards to Dad and Hikari-bachan," asked Naruto. Hiro raised an eyebrow before saying, I still don't understand how you can get away with calling her that. Only you can probably get away from calling her that. I know if anyone else did, they would be dead in 4 seconds. But I gotta get home. I am staring my sister's training, so by Naruto-sama, Haku-sama. With that, Hiro walked back through the crack, which soon closed up afterwards. Tsunade looked over at Naruto with her patented Hokage stare. Naruto, what exactly happened here, and who is Hikari and your father? Naruto sighed and looked at Haku, who nodded. That was Hiro, a 4-tailed demon fox and a good friend. Hikari is my grandmother. Her eldest son, and my dad is someone everyone in this village knows. Naruto smirked at their expressions as they were waiting on his answer. Tsunade motioned for him to continue. Oh, his name is Dervin, also known as Kyubi no Kitsune. It took every fiber in his being to keep from laughed his ass off at the expressions he was getting. Naruto mentally watching everyone's shocked expressions on their faces and thought. And here we go, 3, 2, 1, and right on cue everyone snapped out of their shocked state and yelled, Nanny. Naruto couldn't help but laugh. Unfortunately, everyone uproar woke up Erasure, and he started to cry. Haku picked him up and started rock him, trying to calm him down. Naruto, you better start explaining, demanded Tsunade. Naruto sighed before staring up at the ceiling. When I arrived in Wave after leaving Jiraiya, Haku was 6 months pregnant with Erasure. Shortly afterwards, a young 2-tailed kitsune approached our house and had a message from the lady. Naruto sighed again when he noticed the looks of confusion on their faces. The lady is the queen and mother of all fox demons. You think the Kyubi was bad? Remember, he has only 9 tails while the lady has 100 tails. Well, she wanted to meet us, and soon we found ourselves standing in the demon realm, which was not what we were expecting. It looked like the forest surrounding Konoha. The fox led us a little ways before stopping a small village. Inside the village were multi-tailed foxes, and in both their fox forms and humanoid forms. That is what I met back up with Kyubi. He basically the second in command of the village, is being the lady's eldest. Hakuheim and the lady hit it off right off the back, and the Kyubi started to train me, so for 3 years I trained under the fox demons in the demon realm. We were also incorporated in the tribe and made honorably members of the fox demon tribe. Tsunade sighed and started to rub her temple, trying to hold back the oncoming headache. Naruto, you must have hit your head really hard at some time, because you have been gone only 1 extra year, so there is no way you could have been in the demon realm, as you said, for 3 years. The others except Haku nodded in agreement with her. Naruto smiled before replying. Or it could be that time moves a lot faster in the demon realm than here. Tsunade nodded as everyone started to leave, turned around. Tsunade nodded as Naruto smiled before replying. Or it could be that time moves a lot faster in the demon realm than here. For every 1 month here, it is 1 year in the demon realm. Now Dad is not so bad once you get past his bad sense of humor. He taught me a lot, well, him and Dante-sensei. Oh, Dante-sensei is an extremely powerful warrior that lives in the demon realm. He is a half-demon, but is as powerful as any other full demon. There is a rumor that he is as strong as Kyubi. Well, he specializes in Kenjutsu and taught me everything I know on that subject. The lady personally trained Haku. Well, as much as I am happy to talk with all you again, it is getting late, and I am tired and want to go to bed. Tsunade nodded as everyone started to leave, turned around, and reminded him about the council meeting at noon tomorrow before leaving. With that, Naruto and Haku tucked Erasure into bed before turning in for the night. It was about 2 in the morning when Erasure started to cry again. Haku calmly got up and walked into the room to see someone standing over the crib. The intruder was definitely female, judging by her outline in the dim lighting. Get away from him, yelled Haku, running over and delivering a bone-crushing punch to the intruder's stomach. Haku quickly grabbed Erasure and ran back to the doorway. The intruder hit the ground with a small thud. Ouch, that hurt, you little bitch, replied the intruder in an evil, seductive-sounding voice. Haku just glared at the intruder before sarcastically saying, "It's supposed to hurt, that's why it's called an ass-kicking." Naruto had woken up when Haku yelled the first time and ran towards Arashi's crib only to see the intruder's face appearing in the moonlight. The intruder had snow-white pale skin and long, beautiful silvery hair that went past her hips. She wore a beautiful white kimono with snowflake design on it, and tied together with a light blue obi. Naruto sighed at the sight and lowered his arm that was holding a tanto firmly. "So why is there another member of the Yuki Onna clan in my apartment?" he asked. His voice held a slight edge to it. The intruder calmly stood up before sneering. "You know exactly why I am here. I am here for the boy, you stupid fox. Now hand over the boy." And unfortunately, before she could finish her sentence, Naruto finished running through a series of hand signs. Futon, Daitapa, wind release, great breakthrough. The intruder was sent sailing backwards, receiving the full force of the strong wind, and went through a window. But right as she was about to hit the ground, she disappeared in a swirl of snowflakes. "Remember this, fox, you haven't heard the last of us. We will have the boy." Damn, they are annoying. You would think after Hikari-sama threatens to destroy their whole clan, they would learn by now. "Don't worry, Haku-heim, I won't let them have him. Now let's go to sleep." "Don't worry, I will leave a Kagebushin to watch over him, so go to sleep, dear." Haku hesitantly nods before tucking Erasure back into his crib and returning to bed. Morning seemed to come faster than either one of them liked. Naruto calmly made breakfast before running towards a nearby training ground and did his morning routine consisting of 500 push-ups, 500 sit-ups, and 500 sets of punches and kicks. Afterwards, he walked out onto the lake and started to meditate. He had to be at the council room in 4 hours, so he sat there thinking of what to do. "Well, looky here, a little fox is here." Naruto opened his eyes to see some Chunin smirking at him from the shore. "You have a lot of guts to come back, you demon." The Chunins were about to attack when someone yelled for them to stop. They turned to see Sasuke Uchiha standing behind them, glaring daggers. The Chunins decided to make their escape. Sasuke turns back to Naruto and smiles. A/N. "Yes," Sasuke smiled, "it is the end of the world. Quick, run to the bunker. Finally, I can quit being the prick. So how does it feel to be finally back, brother?" Naruto smiled and walked over and shook his hand and smiled. "Not bad. I just wish that the villagers would just accept me already. All the trying to kill me is getting old." "So you and Sakura, how I not guessed that would happen," replied Naruto sarcastically. Sasuke smirked at his retort. "So have you gotten any stronger since we last met all those years ago?" Sasuke smiled before jumping back a ways and slipping into a fighting stance. "I'll have you know I can also beat Kakashi-sensei. So you have Dojutsu bloodline as well." "No, my eyes only are indicators for the first level of my bloodline. The other part of my bloodline is an evil Dojutsu that make even the strongest of foes tremble. It is called the Konjime, Soul Edge Eye. When this eye is activated and I kill someone, I can seal a part of someone's soul in these eyes. I gain the knowledge of all their techniques and memories." Sasuke shuddered at the thought of having your soul sealed away. "So how many times have you used that eye?" "Only 3 times, and I regretted ever using that power. I have sworn never to use that power unless I desperately need to. But then I have become quite good with weapons and ninjutsu, and my bloodline excels in that," replied Naruto calmly. Sasuke nodded, but knew that he was hiding something, but decided to let it go. As they walked, they talked about what has been going on since Naruto had left. When they arrived at the council room, they both walked in with their professional masks on. Tsunade noticed that everyone was all there now and took a deep breath. "Okay, now that everyone is here, let's begin. I am sure everyone has seen the footage of Uzumaki Naruto's matches." Everyone nodded at her question. "Very good, so now we decide on his new rank. All those for him remaining at Genin, raise your hand." Only Danzo raised his hand in hope that he could later control him. He growled when he realized that he was the only one raising his hand before lowering it. Tsunade smirked at this turn of event. "Okay, all those in favor of the rank of Chunin?" This time only a few hands rose, and so did her eyebrows. "Fine, all those for Jonin?" This time almost all of the civilian side and all of the shinobi council's hands shoot up. Tsunade nodded before turning to Naruto. "Congratulations, Naruto. I hereby grant you the rank of Jonin." Naruto smiled before bowing and calmly said, "Thank you, I am honored." Tsunade was going to move to the next topic when another portal appeared behind Naruto near the door. Out came a man who looked like he was in his mid-20s, early 30s. He had blood-red hair tied back into a ponytail that went down just past his board shoulders. He wore a pair of black cargo pants with red flames around the leg cuffs. He had his stomach wrapped in medial bandages, and he wore a crimson-red trench coat. He had amber gold eyes and had slightly elongated canines, giving him a feral look, making some drool a little bit along with many of the female council members. Naruto lazily looked back at the person and sighed. "What can I do for you two, San?" At this, Tsunade and Shizen snapped their heads up, and fear was etched on their faces. Everyone looked at them, then at the stranger, wondering what he could have done to send their Hokage almost into a panic attack. Tsunade was the first one to speak. "Naruto, please tell me he is not him." The stranger smirked before walking up to her and ran one of his clawed fingers across Tsunade's jawline. "Oh, and if I am him? Don't worry, my dear, I will not harm you or anyone here unless you want to try. My name is Dervin no Yoko, but you all know me as something else. I am the Kyubi no Yoko." Naruto was trying not to fall on his ass laughing at the council's reactions. Several of the civilian council looked like they were going to die from a heart attack. The clan heads looked like they were going to either trying and commit suicide or die of a heart attack. Dervin smirked and walked back over to Naruto and held out a scroll. Naruto raised an eyebrow and took the scroll. "It is from Hikari-sama. She said it was very important and you should read it at home. Also in there a few personal things in there from her and the rest of us. Oh, and Hitomi is wondering when you will come and visit again," answered Dervin, smiling. Naruto couldn't help but chuckle at that last part. "Well, my job is done. Well, until next time." Dervin walked back into the portal, which quickly closed up behind him. Like he said, he will not harm Konoha or its villagers unless attacked first. "Is there anything else that the council needs of me? Because I have diaper duty today, and if I don't go, Haku will have my head." Some of the council members chuckled at his comment after meeting the resident's ice maiden. Tsunade smiled and ushered him out. "No, that was all. Come by tomorrow to learn your new responsibilities." Naruto smiled and bowed. "By your leave, Bachan." Naruto then faded out into thin air from pure speed. The council paled as anyone could see and feel the killing intent rolling off the Hokage. "Naruto, I am going to have fun torturing you later," said Tsunade before giving the biggest shit-eating grins that would make even Orochimaru start whimpering in fear. As Naruto got home, he walked in as Haku was talking with Kurenai, while little Erasure was sleeping in his playpen in the living room. Naruto smiled seeing his son like this. He gave Haku a quick peck on the cheek before walking over to the table and sat down the scroll and looked over at the two women talking like old friends. Naruto turned back to the scroll and calmly opened it. "Hello again, Naruto-kun, it is Hikari. I know it has only been a few months since you left us and returned home, but you and Haku are deeply missed, and especially little Arashi-kun. At the bottom of this letter are some gifts from me and some of the others. I am hoping that I and your dad will be able to visit soon. Oh, and the two blue scrolls are for Haku, and the red ones are for you. Take care. Your loving Hikari Bachan." Naruto could only smile at the short and very sweet letter. He bit his thumb and smeared some blood on the seal, and then channeled some chakra into the seal. Soon 3 red scroll and 2 blue scrolls appeared on the table. Naruto quietly called the girls over and handed the 2 blue scrolls over to Haku, who eyed them curiously before smiling when she found out who sent them. Haku quickly left into the bedroom for a few minutes, came out in a beautiful kimono. It was form-fitting and showed off her generous curves. It was a light shade of blue with a snow-white obi. There were snowflakes and sakura petals floating down the dress. It was made out of high-grade silk. Kurenai looked at the dress in awe. It was a piece of work. A part of her was envious. Naruto smiled at the sight and nodded in approval. Haku walked over and kissed Naruto on the lips before quickly checking on Erasure. Kurenai sat down across from Naruto, and he opened up one of the scroll that contained some jutsu theories. Kurenai smiled as she watched Haku pick up Erasure, who just woke up crying, rocking him, and soon she got him settled down. "Hey Haku, I finished my little project and perfected it." Haku looked at Naruto with a confused look, so did Kurenai. Naruto smirked as he pulled out 2 little pebbles and pushed some chakra into them, and soon an ice blue rose grew in one hand and a deep crimson red rose in the other hand. Kurenai's jaw dropped at what she just saw. Naruto smiled as he placed the blue rose behind Haku's ear and the crimson one behind Kurenai's ear. So what do you think? Haku was the first to speak. It is beautiful, Naruto-kun. I see you learned some of Hikari-sama's techniques. Yes, plus I learned how to use them as weapons, so I combine them with my weapon projections. I can poison my blades with an organic venom, replied Naruto. Oh, and I heard you and Asuma-sensei were together. Kurenai gave a low growl at this, which raised eyebrows. Not anymore. I found him sleeping with some bitch in our bed a few nights ago. What makes it even worse is that he just recently asked me to marry him. I am not sure what to do. No, I sold my old apartment when we were dating, and I moved into a larger one with him. I don't want to bother Anko again. Haku looked at her new friend with a sad look, then at Naruto with a look that clearly said, "You better do something to help, or else." Naruto sighed before getting up and saying, "I'll be right back. I have to meet with a certain smoker." Naruto made his way towards the apartment complex that he remembered Kurenai lived at, but he noticed Asuma walking down a side road, talking with a young female chunin. Naruto growled before landing in a dark alleyway. He closed his eyes, then opened them, revealing his new eyes. He held out his hands and concentrated, and there was a faint light emitting from his hands, and soon he was holding to long steel wires with blades at the tip. Naruto waited till Asuma came into view. Naruto smirked, then with a flick of his wrists, and the two wires flew forward and wrapped around Asuma, and the blades impaled in the nearby buildings. Asuma looked around frantically for the person responsible, then he heard someone approaching from behind. Asuma strained his neck to see whoever was approaching him. There stood a very pissed Naruto holding an elegant katana in his right hand. The back of the blade was resting on his shoulder. What is the meaning of this, Naruto? Oh, don't give me that, Asuma. What the hell are you thinking, spending time with every woman of then the one you are, as of now you are engaged to? Kurenai loved you, but you have broken her heart, and I have half a mind to severely hurt you. But that will make Kurenai mad at me, and that is something I don't want. But let this be a reminder, you hurt her, I hurt you, got it? Said Naruto in a harsh and menacing tone of voice. Asuma winced at his tone. He had never heard Naruto talk like this. Oh, and those chains will disappear in 2 hours, so feel free to hang around. Asuma looked at him strangely before the wires constricted even tighter and lifted him up into the air about 2 feet off the ground. Naruto calmly made his way back towards his place, thinking about what to do. Then it clicked, and Naruto grinned before racing off towards the academy. Naruto approached the classroom but stopped and stood next to the door before it was slammed open and kids raced out. Naruto looked inside to see Iruka gathering up papers and scrolls. "Hey Iruka-sensei, you have a minute?" asked Naruto, standing in the doorway. Iruka looked up and smiled when he noticed Naruto in the doorway. Naruto had always been one of his favorite students back while he was in the academy. "Hello, Naruto. Oh, did you find out what your new rank is?" "Yeah, I am a Jonin now," replied Naruto, smiling. Iruka couldn't help but smile at his accomplishment. "Congratulations, Naruto, you deserve it. So what can I do for you today?" "Well, I kind of need some women advice," asked Naruto, scratching the back of his head. One of Iruka's eyebrows went up and stared at Naruto. "Okay, Naruto, what are you up to now? You already have a beautiful wife and a child. If anything, you should be giving me some advice." Naruto sighed before sitting down on one of the desks. "No, it is not for me. Kurenai and Haku seems to have hit it off really well, and I went to congratulate her about getting together with Asuma, and she growled at me. Kurenai actually growled at me. She found out that he had been cheating on her for the past several months with several different women, both Quanichi and civilians alike. I want to help her, but I don't know what to do. She shows everyone a strong, confident shinobi, but she really needs to be comforted, cared for. She is fragile emotionally, but doesn't want others to know it. What should I do?" Iruka sighed. "Give her time, Naruto, and help her when you and Haku can. Time heals all wounds. Is there anything else I can help you with?" "No thank you, Iruka. See you around," replied Naruto before getting up and leaving. Naruto made his way through the village thinking about what to do next when he saw Sasuke up ahead. "There you are, Naruto. I have been looking for you. I was hoping for a spar." Naruto smirked and walked over to him. "Sure, where and when?" "Training ground 7, 1 hour like old times," replied Sasuke. Naruto nodded in agreement before making his way back to his apartment. When he arrived, Anko had arrived and was trying to calm down Kurenai. Naruto made his way over to Haku and whispered what was going on. Haku smiled and nodded before turning to Anko and Kurenai. Naruto walked over to Kurenai and placed his hand on her shoulder. Don't worry, Kurenai-sensei, you are always welcomed here. If you need help, don't hesitate to ask either me or Haku. Oh, and if Asuma decides to rear his ugly head and hurt you, tell me, and I will set him straight. Got to go, Hakuheim. Do you want me to summon a fox, just in case? No thanks, Naruto-kun. I am going to spend some time with Kurenai and Anko-san today. Just don't hurt Sasuke-san too bad, replied Haku in her cheerful attitude. Naruto just smirked as he picked up his katana and strapped it to his waist. I'll try, but no guarantees. Well, have fun, ladies, and be good. Your daddy will be right back. Naruto then kissed Haku on the lips and kissed Arashi's forehead before leaving. Kurenai sighed. Now why can't I find someone like him? Anko nodded in agreement. Patience, Kurenai, I am sure you will find someone that is right for you, answered Haku. Training Grounds 7. Naruto arrived at the training grounds a few minutes before Sasuke did. Sasuke was wearing a pair of dark navy blue shinobi pants with a black shirt with the Uchiha crest on the back. He had his sword strapped behind him on his belt. He was also wearing arm and wrist guards that went up near his elbow. You ready, Aniki? Asked Naruto playfully. Sasuke smirked before pulling out a few kunais and chucking them at Naruto, who easily dodged it and unsheathed his katana. Naruto smirked before disappeared and reappeared right behind Sasuke, who couldn't follow him. Sasuke looked around for Naruto, then out of nowhere. Boo! Sasuke jumped a good 20 feet, clutching his chest. Damn it, Naruto, don't do that. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. He then started going through some hand signs. Fire style, fire dragon missile. Sasuke took a deep breath before blowing out a super hot stream of fire at Naruto, who just smirked as the jutsu raced towards him. Sasuke was now worried. He had held back on that jutsu to the point where a genin could get away, but Naruto didn't move, and his jutsu hit Naruto head-on. Sasuke looked on as soon the fire died down and revealed a sphere of baby blue fire where Naruto was standing. The sphere started to dissolve, revealing Naruto untouched. What the hell was that? Like it. It is one of my many creations, making a ball of fire that incinerates almost anything that comes in contact with it. I call it Fire Style Foxfire Shield, answered Naruto sweetly as the flames finally dies out. Sasuke couldn't help but smirk at the jutsu just used. Then let's kick it up a notch. Chidori no Yabia. Suddenly Sasuke's hand was encased in bluish-white lightning that sounded extremely like a whole lot of chirping birds before extending out like a blade. Naruto's eyes narrowed before grinning. I see you have upgraded your techniques. Well, let me show you something as well. You see, my bloodline lets me make any type of weapon I want from my chakra, but I can also layer them. Watch. Naruto unsheathed his katana and held it parallel to the ground before a reddish-orange light started to emit from Naruto's hand, and soon the whole katana started to glow. When the light faded, Sasuke got a good look at Naruto's new sword. Instead of holding a katana, Naruto was now holding what looked like an ornate broadsword. It had a gold and blue design right above the sword's guard. Think of Caliber from Fate Stay Night. Here we go, brother. With that, the two of them raced towards each other at blinding speeds so fast, it looked like they simply vanished. After a few minutes of trying to cut each other, they landed in their original start positions, sporting a few minor cuts, but nothing too serious. Naruto's katana glows a faint blue color before returning back to its original form. Not bad, Sasuke. I see you haven't been slacking over the years, said Naruto, grinning. Sasuke was about to retort when they heard something coming from the woods. They turned to see something not human emerge. They were wearing worn black cloaks and a hood that would have covered their faces if they had human faces. Unfortunately, they didn't. Instead, they had a skull-like face with kunai-sized teeth, and a whole lot of them. It sort of looked prehistoric in nature. They have bone-like claws as well. They slowly crept it out, and soon 20 of these creatures stood at the forest edge. What the hell are those? Yelled Sasuke, backing up a few steps. Crap, why are the keepers of the dead here? Stated Naruto, getting ready to attack. Sasuke, be careful, they may not look like much, but they are extremely fast and strong. Sasuke steeled his nerves before getting into a fighting stance. Why are you here? They didn't answer, but they didn't need to because of the newest arrival made everything clear. Out came a man who looked like he was in his late 20s to early 30s. He had very pale blue skin and long silvery white that was braided back. He had a large tribal weapon strapped to his back. The person wore only a pair of loose white pants. Well, that explains a lot. Sasuke, run back to my place and protect Haku, and Erasure, tell her they are back, please. They planning on either taking or killing Haku and kidnapping Erasure, go, said Naruto, gathering chakra into his sword. Sasuke very hesitantly nodded before racing back towards Naruto's apartment, hoping to get there first. Back with Naruto. The pale man grunted, and the keepers raced forward, hoping to get by Naruto, to only find the edge of his sword. In a flash, Naruto sliced 4 keepers in half. Whoops, sorry, my hand slipped, my bad. With that, the rest of the keepers charged while the pale man just stood there. Naruto quickly made work to all but 3 that got by him as he was slicing the others. Crap, I hope Sasuke can deal with them. Now it is just you and me, big guy. Back with Sasuke. Sasuke had just arrived at Naruto's apartment and slammed open in the front door, huffing. Haku, Anko, Kurenai, and Yugugo were inside, talking while Erasure was drinking from his bottle. Haku, Naruto sent me back here to tell you they are back, along with something he called the keepers, said Sasuke before they could anything. Haku's eyes widened in horror as she scooped up Erasure and held it close to her. Kurenai, Anko, and Yugugo looked at Haku, a little worried. Okay, what the hell is going on? Asked Anko. Before either Haku or Sasuke could answer, 3 keepers came through the window. They looked around till they saw Haku and Erasure and started to swiftly move towards them. Sasuke, wasting no time, and sliced the nearest keeper with his katana, slicing him in half. Yugugo did the same with the other one, and the last keeper found himself a pin-cushion curtsy of Kurenai and Anko and their kunais. Haku turned to Sasuke, who was wiping some blood off his sword. Where is Naruto? Sasuke sheathed his sword and replied. He is back at the training ground with the rest, and that giant pale-skinned person. Haku nodded before trying to settle down Erasure. Yugugo and Anko quickly disposed of the 3 keepers. Kurenai turned to Haku and calmly asked, Okay, can you please explain what were those things, and what were they after? Haku sighed before sitting down calmly, rocking Erasure in her arms. Okay, I will tell only because you 3 are my closest friends, and you are a brother to Naruto. Naruto is not completely human anymore. He is a Hanyu, a half-demon. He really doesn't want anyone here know about it. Even though I am fully human, I do have a demon heritage. Mine comes from a race known as the Yukiana. They are an Arctic demon race that lives in the frozen north, and their magic revolves around ice and snow. Naruto is a fox demon. For some reason, the Yukiana wants Erasure, but of course, Naruto would kill their whole race before that happened. Whatever you do, please don't tell anyone of this. It could ruin the quiet life that Naruto dreams of. They all nodded and decided to wait for Naruto to return. That was until they felt a massive chakra spike followed by a large explosion. Back with Naruto. Naruto and the pale-skinned man stood there staring at each other for several minutes. So you have named Big Guy? The guy just grunted in response. Okay, so I do have a question. Why are you after my wife and kid? The pale-skinned person smirked before saying in a deep voice, Your son has a power that will change the fate of our tribe. We will have him be our weapon, and your traitorous wife will be our leader, personal bitch. Naruto could feel his anger building at an alarming rate. So that is your plan? Well, guess what? You will die, and if you touch them, I will kill your whole tribe. Suddenly, Naruto's sword started to glow again, and soon he was holding a brand new sword. The blade looked like a long black cone that didn't come to a point with violet markings on it. It had a very ornate or unique guard and handle. Think of the second archer's favorite blade from Fate Stay Night. Take this, Inuma Hurricane. Naruto slid into a horse stance with his sword above his head, pointing towards the sky. Then the blade started to spin faster and faster, and then red energy chakra coming out of the blade rotating with it. Naruto then slammed the tip into the ground, creating a tornado of red chakra erupt out of the ground and rapidly expanding, which soon resulted in a large explosion. The explosion was heard all over Konoha. Soon a large crowd gathered at the training grounds to see a large blast crater, and the pale-skinned stranger leaning against a tree. His whole left arm was torn to shreds and had several cuts all over his body. Naruto was walking out of the crater with his blade resting on his right shoulder. He looked over to the target of his anger and smirked. "Why don't you just give up? You will never beat me, not even your Yuki-sama can even fight me," said Naruto, dissolving his projection around his katana. The pale-skinned man started to laugh and Naruto's eye narrowed. "You will fall one day, Fox, mark my words. Nothing will stop Yuki-sama's plans, and your son will be our tool, and your wife will be our slave." Naruto just held his sword off to the side parallel to the ground. His sword started to change again. It turned back into the sword he sparred against Sasuke earlier. Haku just smirked when she saw the blade. Still not enough. Naruto started to concentrate, and soon a good-sized stream of fox fire started to circle around the blade that was currently glowing a golden color. You could practically feel and see the power radiating off his sword. "I am going to fucking kill you. Kitsune X Caliber." Naruto swung his sword in a power surge that could level Hokage Mountain several times over, raced towards the stranger. The technique ripped through trees, rocks, flesh, anything, and soon the only thing remaining in the wake was semi-melted boulders that lined the bottom of the trench. Everyone looked like on and all except Haku and Erasure, who could care less. "Okay, Naruto, what was that?" asked Tsunade, snapping out of her shock. "Just a little ability of my bloodline. If I project a weapon that had a special ability when it was around, I can use it. It takes a good amount of chakra to use it. Like the one I just used uses the amount of an elite Jonin, and the one before my Enuma requires a mid-level Chunin chakra," replied Naruto, dispelling his projection around his katana before sheathing it. "Okay, but what was he talking about and who was he?" asked Danzo, calculating about how he could get this power into his Roots program. "For one, Danzo, don't think about it, or I will break that other arm of yours," growled Naruto. "Is that a threat, boy?" stated Danzo calmly. "No, that was a promise, and I keep my promises. He was a member of a rival clan member, and the reason for him being here is none of your concerns. Now, if you will please excuse me, I would like to spend some time with my wife and son." With that, Naruto, Haku, and Erasure left the training grounds and headed home. Sasuke couldn't help but smile at the way Naruto dealt with the Yuki Onna member and the keepers. He and Sakura left to go home, and soon the rest of the crowd left to go back to what they were doing before the explosion. Uzumaki apartment. Haku just put Erasure in his crib and walked back into the master bedroom to see Naruto leaning against the headboard wearing on a pair of loose sleep pants. Haku changed into her nightgown and curled up next to him. "Haku, I swear I will always be there for you," and Erasure. Haku smiled, and soon they were fast asleep. It has been 2 months since Naruto and his family returned to Konoha. Since his last encounter with the Yukiana, Konoha has had relative peace. Naruto was taking a few missions here and there to provide for Haku and Erasure. Haku was working part-time at the hospital when Kurenai could watch Erasure. You could normally find Naruto when he was not on a mission or with his family sparring with Sasuke and some of the Rookie 9. Kakashi now quickly refuses to spar with Naruto after what happened during his exam. Yuago and Tenten would always ask Naruto for a Kenjutsu match since he was the top swordsman. Tsunade had wanted him to take a Genin team, but Naruto kept saying no. He wanted to spend some more time with his family before taking on a team. The council had been debating on pushing the Clan Restoration Act on Naruto. That was quickly stopped when Haku made a guest appearance to nearly froze the whole council. By the end of the day, the council feared the Uzumaki family, and for good reasons. It was almost time for the Chunin exams to be held once again in Konoha, and Naruto was told that he was going to be the second exam proctor. Naruto just sighed and nodded before looking for Anko for some advice. He found her at the one place he knew he would find her, the Dango store. "Hello, Anko-sen, mind if I sit with you?" "Don't worry, I won't take any." Anko growled about being disturbed during her eating time. She wiped her head up, intending to chew the guy off. Look, I will not go out with you. Oh, Naruto-kun, sorry, I thought you were someone else. Naruto couldn't help but chuckle. I am flattered that you would want to go out with me, but sadly I am married. Naruto sat down across from her and ordered 2 plates of dangos. Tsunade just put me in charge of the second exam, and I know you normally in charge of it, so what is up? Anko sighed before placing a hand on her stomach unconsciously and sighed. Some personal things have risen. Naruto slowly picked up a stick of dango before asking, so who is the father? Anko's head snapped up. Was it that obvious? Naruto smiled and took a bite of his dango. Well, the fact that you were smiling like there was no tomorrow, and also the fact that you out your hand against your stomach. So who is the father? Kakashi Hitaki, replied Anko, smiling. Well, never saw that one coming. Now if only we could get Kurenai with someone, but who? Said Naruto, taking another bite of his dangos. Anko nodded while eating some of hers. What about Genma? No, I think he is already seeing someone. I would rather kill Asuma than let him date Kurenai, him or Guy, said Anko with a slight shiver. What about Iruka-sensei? Suggested Naruto, setting down his cup. The Chunin Academy teacher? Naruto nodded in response. Why him? Why not? He is kind, caring, and good with kids, and who cares what rank he is? Did you know he is actually an ex-ANBU before joining the academy? If you think about it, would you leave it to a normal Chunin to teach the next generation of shinobi? They are our future, our next leaders, and sensei. Plus, I think they would make a cute couple, don't you? Answered Naruto, calmly finishing his plate. Anko didn't reply, she just finished her plate before saying she had a few more stops to make before leaving. Naruto made his way towards his favorite training ground and took off his jacket and placed it on one of the training posts. Naruto closed his eyes and started to concentrate. Soon a dull orange glow encased his right hand. When the light faded, Naruto looked down and smirked. His right hand had a tight leather glove with metallic casing on top of the hand with the Roman numeral 7 on it. On each fingertip was a metal claw. Naruto turned to a tree and whipped his arm to the side, then back to the other side, only to have the tree trunk in front of him to be sliced in several different places by nearly invisible steel wires coming from each fingertip. Damn, not quick enough. By Tusan's memories, I should have been able to slice that tree like a hot knife going through butter. Concentrate, envision, and recreate. The glove glowed a dull orange again before dying again. Let's try this again. This time he was able to slice the target a little faster than last time. He trained until nightfall before heading back home to see a fuming Haku in the kitchen. Naruto was confused. What's wrong, Yukiheim? Snow Princess. Haku growled as she walked over to him. Those fucking assholes at the council won't take a hint that we will not accept the CRA. They said that you have to take it. Naruto sighed before pulling her into a tight embrace. Don't worry, Hakuheim. If they do force it on us, we will leave this village. I promise to make you happy. Time skip a few days left until the Chunin exams. Hokage-sama, there is a demon approaching the main gate. It has already killed 20 of our shinobi, including one team from Kiri, missed. The rest of the teams from Kiri have made it here, but nothing we throw at it is working. Yelled a battered Chunin. Naruto was standing in front of Tsunade when the Chunin barged in, discussing his role in the second exam. His eyes narrowed upon hearing the news. He turned back to Tsunade and seriously requested, Tsunade-sama, allow me to go and confront this beast. Tsunade noticed the gleam in his eyes and nodded. Naruto nodded before racing home and grabbing his sword and racing towards the main gate. Just inside the village were the remaining 3 teams from Kiri, including the Mizukichi. There was a team from Kumo and one from Snow/Spring. Naruto stood on top of one of the surrounding trees looking at the demon that was approaching. Even though the demon was still a ways from Konoha, Naruto could clearly see him. Demon Lord, Kyuki. Kyuki was a powerful demon lord that ruled in the western land in the demon realm. Naruto had heard stories about him and his power. Kyuki was as strong as the 7-tailed demon. He looked like a giant tiger with gold fur with black stripes. He had 2 long fangs that protruded from its mouth and 2 horns on top of its head, as well as a pair of wings. So this means I may have to release your true form. Naruto muttered, gripping his sword tighter. Kyuki let out a loud roar and flapped its massive wings, sending several blades of purple demon chakra towards Konoha's gate. Naruto smirked as he calmly said, "Slay my foe, Guma no Tsurugi. Slay my foe, sword that conquers devils." Naruto's katana glowed a robin egg blue, then when the light faded his blade had changed, the guard vanished, and the handle grew longer. The blade was now a dark blue color and a little bit longer. Look at the sword in Shounen on Mayuji episode 12. Naruto held his sword behind him ready to swing. Honor the prayers within, multiple gods that descended prior to proper beings. Bind the ogre and put down the evil. Extinguish the 100 demon of the core. Do it now. Naruto's blade started to glow a dull red color right before Naruto swung it with all his might, releasing hundreds of red blades of chakra. The two blades of chakra collided in mid-air, canceling each other out. "Who dares stand up to the great Kyuki?" growled Kyuki. "Oh, shut up, Kyuki." "So what is the Lord of the Western Lands doing in the human world?" replied Naruto, making himself known. Kyuki's eyes narrowed. "So a priest has arrived, but how did you know about my lands?" "Oh, well, that's easy. I have heard stories and rumors about you from Hikari-sama. She said you very arrogant, and I have to say that is an understatement. But I will ask again, what are you doing here in the human realm?" demanded Naruto. Kyuki grinned, like he was up to something, which made everyone but Naruto tense up. "I will do as I want." Kyuki opened his mouth and breathed out a blast of dark power that raced straight for Naruto. Naruto smirked before using the tip of his sword to draw a star of light in front of him. Forbid. Suddenly a star appeared in front of him and blocked Kyuki's attack. Namaka Samanda Bodanin Sarabatara Bujisharia, Harahorkian Sawaka. An Onmyuoji attack spell. Naruto leveled the tip of his sword at Kyuki and concentrated. Then a beam of white light streaked from the sword and struck Kyuki's throat. Kyuki roared in pain, but quickly shook it off. Naruto sneered before muttering, "Damn, I thought that would do a little more damage. Man, I didn't want to show this to anyone here so soon." Kyuki arrogantly said, "What will you do now, Ninjan human?" Naruto could only smirk before saying, "You know, for only being a mid-level demon lord, so sure talk big. You know, my heritage is kind of unique in both demon and human standards. My birth parents both had powers of Onmyujis, so I can deal with most demons below your level with ease. But I do have another side of me that is unique. But first, Namumaku San Manda Sendo Makaro Shada Teratakan. Onmyuji's spell, Kai." There was suddenly blast of wind that originated from Naruto right as he said that, making Kyuki stop for a second. Suddenly several weird symbols started hovering around Naruto in a ring path. They then changed from black to deep crimson red, then shattered like glass. At first, nothing happened. Then Naruto's body started to pulse. Then there was a large explosion of chakra that came from his body. You had to be a blind fool and an idiot not to feel the amount of raw chakra coming from Naruto. Kyuki backed up a little bit. Back in the village, everyone except Haku was scared. Haku was smiling, knowing that Kyuki was not going to survive this fight. Back with Naruto, the dark red chakra that was pouring out of Naruto towered over the forest and soon took the form of a multi-tailed fox. It opened its mouth before being sucked back into Naruto's body. After all of the chakra had disappeared in Naruto's body, nothing happened for the first few seconds before he arched forward in pain. His hair turned snow white and then grew longer till it reaches mid-back. His nails elongate to form claws. Then a bony substance erupted from beneath his arms and formed something similar to spiked armor that went all the up his arm. Then a large red fox tail appeared at the base of his spine. Naruto slowly straightened back up, but had his face hidden by his bangs. "I see you are a Kitsune Hanyu, half-demon fox, but you are only a one-tail while I can take on a seven-tail on a bad day. So what will you do now?" sneered Kyuki. "Whoever said I was just a one-tail, you overgrown furball," said Naruto, snapping his head up, revealing his now amber gold eyes. His tails then slowly slip into two tails, then four, then eight, and then into nine. "How are you a nine tails? That is impossible for a half-breed like you," exclaimed Kyuki. Naruto smirked before blurring away and reappearing right above Kyuki's muzzle. "Nothing is impossible when you believe it. Plus, I am not a nine-tailed fox. Slowly, one of his tails split into two, making Kyuki's eyes widen in fear. I am a 10-tailed fox. Naruto reared back a fist and socked Kyuki right in between the eyes, sending Kyuki scampering backwards, screaming in pain. I am going to kill you, you damn fox, yelled Kyuki, sending another wave of black energy towards Naruto. Naruto just raised his hand and stopped the attack dead in its track. You know I am only at 60% of my full power, so either you are losing your touch or you're pathetic. Naruto's hand started to glow a dull red color before flicking his wrist, sending 5 beams of light around Kyuki, hitting the ground, forming 5 blood-red cat R's. Kyuki was about to move to strike Naruto when a wall of energy rose up, trapping him in. What the hell? What did you do? Demanded Kyuki. Naruto walked towards Kyuki holding his head in a demon hand sign. Oh, this, nothing much other than trapping you in a demon barrier. And this is one of my favorite weapons to use with my bloodline. Again, his hand glowed a dull red color, and soon he was holding a long jet black katana with a strange guard and a simple handle. Tensai Zangetsu. From Bleach, this blade was used by a very powerful Shinigami named Ichigo Kurosaki. Naruto smirked before channeling a good amount of chakra into his sword. Getsu Tensho. Naruto swung his sword in a large arch, and a large wave of red and black energy flew from the blade and sliced Kyuki from his right shoulder all the way down to his left hip. Kyuki knew this was a fatal blow, but he felt strange. He turned around only to see something that installed fear in him, his body laying on the ground, seeping out blood. But wait, how am I seeing this? I am standing right here, but I clearly see my body dead on the forest floor. Thought Kyuki till he realized his soul had been separated from his body. Damn that fox brat. Now I will return to my kingdom and wait till I can remake my body and come back and destroy this damn village. Wait, why am I? What did you doing to me? Screamed Kyuki as he felt him being pulled towards Naruto by an invisible force. This is the dark side of my bloodline. When I kill someone, I conceal a good portion of their soul into my eyes. I will gain a portion of their knowledge, include techniques, experiences, and little knick-knacks. So have fun, and say hello to everyone on the inside. Answered Naruto coldly. Kyuki roared out in rage as his soul was sucked into Naruto's eyes. Finally, it is over. Now what to do with that furball's corpse? Oh well. Namumaku san manda sendo makaro shota terataken, fuin seal. Right as he said that, the seals that had shattered earlier reappeared before flashing white, then black, and disappearing. As they did, Naruto reverted back to original form. Man, I feel so weak right now. Back in the village, Haku and Sasuke were smiling about the fact that Naruto survived and destroyed the demon. Tsunade was proud of her unofficial grandson. Most of the villagers were looking on in complete awe, and some of the elders looked on in fear. They knew that Naruto held favors among the clan heads and 90% of the shinobi force behind him. Naruto arrived back at the village gates only to have most of the villager there staring at him. Yo! Most of the older ninjas' face faulted at his statement, while Kakashi gave him thumbs up. So what do you want to do with the big throw rug? Tsunade chuckled at his nickname. Don't know right now. But on a different note, why didn't you tell me about your other form? Because the council would try to kill me, Haku, and Erasure, and that was something I was not going to risk. It is true I am a half-demon, but I am no threat to Konoha unless you make me one. Naruto turned to the council members. Let me ask you something. Would you want a demon as an enemy, or would you like one that is willing to protect you and this village? Okay, well, you said something about a dark side to your bloodline. Care to explain that? Asked Danzo, walking up to them. Naruto sighed before calmly saying, Sorry, that is a family secret that hopefully we'll never have to use anymore. Now, if you excuse me, I want to go relax with my family, or are you going to bitch and complain that I didn't answer you? Because if you are, then let me get comfy, so I can fall asleep. Danzo and some of the council looked furious at his answer. You will tell us it is the will of the council, yelled Danzo. Actually, you have no power over me since I am a shinobi and not a civilian, Danzo. Oh, and tell those rude agents up there to get loose, and if I find them near Erasure and Haku again, well. Naruto pulled out a scroll and unrolled it. There was a large amount of smoke, and soon 10 corpses appeared in front of Danzo. You won't find the bodies. Tsunade glared at Danzo, who was looking like a child caught in the act of stealing a cookie. Naruto then walked over to Haku and Kurenai, who was holding Erasure, and smiled before they left. As they approached Naruto's favorite ramen stand, Kurenai asked, "So can I know what they were asking about? I am just like family?" Naruto thought for a moment, then smirked. "Only if you agree on going on a date." Haku looked at Naruto like she knew something was up. Kurenai looked at Naruto with a shocked look. Was he trying to ask her out on a date? While she agreed that he looked hot, she knew he loved Haku with all his heart. She looked at Haku, only to receive a nod. "Okay, fine." Naruto smiled before sitting down and ordering one miso ramen. Like all powerful gifts, there is a powerful drawback. The second level of my bloodline is a Dojutsu that can seal a part of enemy's soul into my eyes. When I do that, I receive a portion of their experiences and some of their jutsu knowledge. But I also have nightmare after using that eye for weeks, seeing them being tortured. Kurenai looked at Naruto, horrified at his bloodline ability. But then she realized who was using it, and she relaxed. "So when and where?" Naruto looked at her, but she answered, "The date." "Oh sorry, let's see, tonight at 7 in front of the burning leaf, and we're something nice," replied Naruto, smiling as Haku took Erasure and they returned home. When they were out of earshot, Naruto sighed. "Okay, that is one, now to get the other." "You know that they are going to hurt you for doing this," said Haku, knowing what her husband was talking about. "Maybe, but if anyone deserves happiness, it is those two. Now how to get him there?" wondered Naruto. "Don't worry, just ask him to meet us for dinner there as a thanks," answered Haku, maneuvering Erasure in a better position. "You know you are a genius, my dear. What would I do without you, my dear? I love you, Hakuheim," said Naruto, kissing her lovingly on her lips. Haku smiling and gave a very soft moan when he kissed her. I know even without you telling me. I love you and Erasure so much." "Okay, I will see you after I meet up with Iruka-sensei. I will cook you all your favorites tonight," said Naruto, pulling Haku into another kiss. With that, he was off the academy to put the second part of his plan into action. As he reached the classroom in question, he heard Iruka drawing on with his history lesson. Naruto quietly slipped in the back via an open window. Still teaching the same old boring lesson, Iruka-sensei. Iruka looked up and smiled, seeing his favorite blonde leaning against the wall in the back. All of the students looked at the new person, wondering who he was, and when did he get there? History is important to know in order to grow. You know that, Naruto. Still doesn't mean it is boring and dull at the same time. I mean, come on, you are all but putting them to sleep, replied Naruto, smiling. Iruka sighed and shook his head. You never did like my history lessons. But I don't think you are here just to bash my teaching lessons, are you? Nope, I just wanted to catch up and invite you out tonight to catch up with the person I think as an older brother, answered Naruto, walking up to the front of the class. Iruka nodded before turning to the class. Everyone, I want to introduce you to an old student of mine who has turned out to be one of Konoha's strongest shinobis, Uzumaki Naruto. All the kids turned to Naruto, but all face faulted when all he said was, Yo. Iruka sighed before saying, I knew assigning you to Kakashi's team would be a bad idea. Well, class, any questions you would like answered? Naruto pointed to one of the young female students in the back. Is it true that you killed that monster yesterday? Naruto smiled before answering. Yes, that was me. Kyuki didn't stand a chance against me. Anyone else? What is your strongest jutsu? Asked another student. Naruto stopped and thought for a moment. My strongest jutsu is too destructive to really show to you, sorry. But I can show a few of my favorite techniques if you want. The students looked at Naruto like they were given free rein in a candy store. Iruka smiled before telling the students to meet up at the training grounds. A second after that, the classroom was empty except for him and Naruto. Iruka sighed. He had never seen the classroom empty that quick in all his years of teaching. Naruto laughed at the kids' excitement before making his way down to the training grounds. Iruka knocked on the other teachers' classroom doors, inviting them out as well. Soon Naruto was standing on the ground in front of the whole academy. Okay, now, like I said to Iruka's class, some of my best jutsus are too powerful to show without you getting hurt, and I don't want that. So instead I am going to show you a few of my favorite techniques. This one is one of my first ones, Kagebushin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone. There was a puff of smoke, and soon there were 3 Narutos standing in front of them. This is the Shadow Clone Jutsu, an advanced form of the clone technique you are learning. Unlike the regular Bushin, mine is solid. Now for my next trick, I will make the training log disappear. The 2 clones puffed out of existence before he held up his hand, revealing a ball of swirling chakra slowly form in his hand. Rasengan, spiraling sphere. Naruto plowed the sphere of chakra into the post, and soon the post was destroyed. Some of the old instructors' eyes were big when they saw Naruto's technique, while the rest looked on in total awe. Iruka was smiling. He was proud at how much Naruto had grown over the years. Who would have thought that you would come this far? You went from an attention-seeking loudmouth brat to a confident, strong young man with a loving family and friends. Now I am a special type of ninja that focuses around 2 fields, both ninjutsu and weapons. Thanks to my bloodline, I excel in those subjects. There are many different types of ninjas out there. Take the Hokage for instance. She is a medical ninja who trains to heal and keep our family and friends from dying on the battlefield. Then there are taijutsu masters like my friend Rock Lee. There are interrogators and information gatherers and trackers. There are so many different fields you can go in, and you will find your nick later on when you become Genin. Any questions so far? What does your bloodline do? Asked one of the teachers, getting nods from everyone else. Naruto smirked before he held out his hands like he was holding a pole or something. There was a dull light before a beautiful halberd appears in his hands out of nowhere. This is my bloodline. I can materialize any type of weapon from my chakra. Naruto tossed the halberd in the air, and soon it vanished. So any other questions? One of the girls piped up. Do you have a girlfriend? Sorry, little one, but I am happily married and have a baby boy. So no, I am not looking for a date, but thanks for asking. Any other questions? Answered Naruto, smiling. A boy in the back piped up. Is it true you are the one that holds the Kyuubi at bay? Baka, don't ask Naruto-sama that question, Baka Toshiro, yelled a girl. Naruto couldn't help but laugh at their behalf. Everyone looked at him confused. Sorry, so am I the container for the strongest demon known to man? Let me think about that. Well, I was the container of Kyuubi until I was 12 years old. Now, Toshiro, are you the rookie of the year? The girl who had yelled at Toshiro earlier started to laugh. Naruto-sama, Toshiro is the dead last and the loser of the school. Toshiro hung his head in shame. Naruto sighed and remembered his time in the academy. You know what, I wouldn't say that about him because of his grades, my dear. Did you know during my time at the academy, I was the dead last the class clown? At that, all of the students looked at Naruto shocked. Iruka was the first to speak, and he laughed. It is true, he gave me so much trouble, especially with all those pranks of his. Especially that one with all those delayed paint bombs. Naruto looked at Toshiro carefully. He had brown spiky hair and emerald green eyes. He was wearing cloudy white pants and a gray muscle shirt, and a cloudy gray jacket with a strange emblem on the back. It was a pair of wings with a broadsword in the middle. Naruto turned to Iruka. Remember tonight's appointment? I got a Haku is waiting on me, and you know what happens if you are too late. Iruka shuddered at the memory. Don't worry, Naruto, I will not hold you up, and I will be there, said Iruka quickly. As Naruto made his way towards his place, all he could do was smile. He quickly prayed to Kami that their plan would work. That, and also he might have found an apprentice at the same time. That emblem, if he is correct, that boy will go far. When Naruto walked inside, he found Haku, Shizune, and Tsunade inside talking and drinking tea or sake in Tsunade's case. Naruto kissed Haku on the cheek and told her that he had delivered the message. Haku smiled and turned back to her guests. Naruto came back in with a sake bottle and sat down beside Haku. Tsunade, I think I might have found an apprentice today. He has potential to be great someday. His name is Toshiro. He is in Iruka-sensei's class, stated Naruto, taking a swig of his sake. Tsunade looked at Naruto for a minute, then smirked. So you are going to prove that the dead last is nothing to scoff at? Naruto smirked before looking up at the clock. Only 4 hours till showtime. So Hakuheim, what do you want to do in the meantime? Tsunade and Shizune looked at them before Haku giggled before saying, Sorry, we are trying to hook up Kurenai and Irika up tonight. Tsunade smiled, but Shizen looked at them and asked. But I thought Asuma-san was going out with Kurenai-san? Naruto growled at the Asuma's name. Kurenai broke up with him after she found him cheating on her with another woman in their apartment. I confronted him, and he was not sorry for the way he treated her. Oh, by the way, Hakuheim, I am throwing in a small twist in our little game with the two lovebirds. Naruto whispered his idea in her ear. Haku couldn't help but smile at that. I like it, but be careful on what you use. Naruto smiled before getting back up and walking towards the door. Don't worry, I will. Talk to you later, I need to get ready. With that, he left the room and went into the bedroom. Haku tuned back to the older women, smiling, thinking of multiple ways this could go down. Tsunade and Shizen looked at Haku confused, but shook it off and started to talk again. Naruto raced towards the burning leaf around 6:45, hoping that everything goes well. He landed on the roof near the burning leaf, and there standing out in front was Irika dressed in a pair of tan dress pants and a black dress shirt. Irika was waiting patiently for the rest of his party. Naruto turned and looked down the road and nearly fell out of his roost. There walking down the road was Kurenai in all her glory. She was wearing a long black dress that went down a little past her knees and accented all of her curves. She had her hair pulled back in a ponytail with a beautiful hair clip. Damn, if I wasn't married, I would definitely ask her out. Okay, phase 2 is about to begin, thought Naruto, smirking. Oh, hello, Irika-kun. What are you doing here? Asked Kurenai upon arriving. I am waiting on Naruto and his family, and you? Replied Irika, amazed at her beauty. He would never admit it, but he had always had a crush on Kurenai ever since their academy days. Well, let's wait inside for them, because I was supposed to meet them here as well, suggested Kurenai. Irika nodded, and they made their way inside the restaurant. A few minutes later, one of the store's receptionists walked up to the two and smiled. Would you two be Umnio-san and Yuhi-san by any chance, would you? Irika was the first to answer. Yes, that is us. Is something wrong? The receptionist smiled before she motioned for them to follow. No problem, but your table is ready. Follow me, please. Irika and Kurenai looked confused, but soon followed. Soon they were seated near the back, where most of the higher-ups are usually sat. Here you go, and your waiter will be with you shortly. Have a good meal. With that, she left with a smile on her face. Irika was the first to say anything again. Okay, what is going on here? Not that I mind being here with a beautiful goddess of a woman, but still. Kurenai was just as confused as Irika and took a look around as a waiter walked up and asked for their drinks. As the waiter left with their order, Kurenai looked over at Irika, who was fighting back a slight blush on his face. That is why he was smiling earlier. But he is kind of handsome and better with kids. He was really funny back in the academy. I wonder if he likes me. Kurenai looked over at Irika, who looked up and blushed. Okay, so he does like me. Maybe I should give him a chance. He is definitely better than Asuma. They spent the rest of the dinner talking about recent missions and catching up since their time in the academy. All in all, they had a great time. By the time they left, they were laughing with each other. Naruto sighed as he noticed the couple walked out of the restaurant. He knew that he was going to regret this, but hopefully they would forgive them. He silently transformed into Asuma and created a pair of trench knives. He hopped down and, doing his best impersonation of Asuma, confronted the laughing couple. Hello, Kurenai. I come to see if you will give me another chance, and I find you with this Chunin. Kurenai's eyes saddened when she saw Asuma and held onto Irika's arm. Irika growled before quickly saying, Back off, Asuma, you had your chance, and you blew it by cheating with some hussies. Kurenai-chan is too good for someone as low as you. And so what if I am just a Chunin by rank? I can still kick your ass. This shocked Kurenai and smiled at Irika's declaration. Irika quickly pulled out a kunai and got in a defensive stance in between Asuma and Kurenai. Asuma growled and pulled out his trench knives and ran towards Irika with killing intent. Asuma charged his knives with some wind chakra and took a swing at Irika, who ducked under and swung his kunai up towards his face. Asuma blocked with his other trench knife. For a few minutes, that's all they did before Irika started smirking. Irika placed his kunai back in his pocket before flashing through some hand signs. Suetun, Mizukibiden. Water release. Water Fong missile. Irika spat out a medium-sized water ball in the shape of a Fong towards Asuma. Asuma looked as the water Fong shot towards him, and all he could think was, shit, not good. Asuma quickly pushed more wind chakra into his knives and sliced right through Irika's attack. Irika got behind him and held a kunai to his neck. Irika calmly asked, "Go away, Asuma. Kurenai will never come back to you, so if you ever come back, I will show you the true definition of the word pain. Now get lost." Asuma didn't say anything except for disappearing in a whirlwind of leaves. Naruto reappeared on a nearby roof, a little shaken. He knew that Irika. Haku gave a smile at the thought and turned around and wrapped her arms around Naruto's neck. "I would love it, but not yet, maybe in a few years, but I want to spend some time learning how to be a mom." "But Haku, my dear, you are a great mother," replied Naruto softly. Haku smiled and kissed him on the lips. "Thank you, Naruto. So how did the date go?" Naruto sighed and then smiled. "As far as I can tell, it went very well, plus I found out that Irika can be very scary when he wants to. Plus, when I had Asuma come and try and take back Kurenai, he used a B-ranked water technique on me to prove his point. Damn, I hope they don't hate me for that. But they should be together, and I pity Asuma if he actually tries that, cause he will have an angry Irika and myself after him." Haku smiled and kissed him again. "Well, we can only wait and see now. Now I am going to bed, you coming." Several weeks have passed since Kyuki attacked, and Konoha had settled back into its peaceful routine again. Irika and Kurenai were the talk of the town, well in the shinobi portion. They had been furious when they found out that Naruto had played Asuma during their first date. It took Haku several hours to calm them down, enough to the point that they wouldn't kill him while in the same room. When they asked why he did it, all he said was, "I was just giving you a small push in the right direction." This just ticked Irika off, and Kurenai shook her head. "Look, Irika, Kurenai, I am sorry for doing that to you. Irika-sensei, I remember you telling that you were once in the Anbu Corps, but damn, sensei, I never remember you that scary. That jutsu you threw at me packed a punch." Irika couldn't help but chuckle at Naruto. Irika looked across the room at Kurenai and Haku, who were talking about different things that the guys didn't want to know. "Okay, I can't stay mad at you since you were trying to help. So mind telling me what those things you call keepers and that other person are after your family?" This got Kurenai's attention, and Naruto and Haku sighed. Haku turned to Naruto before asking, "I don't want to lie to them, Naruto. She is my best friend, plus Irika is like your big brother." Naruto sighed before he got up and walked over to the door before going through a few hand signs, and soon the walls flashed a light blue color. "I put up a privacy seal. Look, I know Haku gave you a quick version of what is going on, right, Kurenai?" Kurenai nodded while remembering that day. "Okay, just so you know, I am not fully human anymore. About a year ago, I became a fox Hanyu. Both Haku and Erishur are fully human. Now Haku, even though she is human, her family are descendants of a demon clan known as Yukianas. This clan is humanoid in nature, but they are known as the Ice Demons. Their magic surrounds both ice and snow. On my side of the family are from Onmyuji's, but I was adopted by the Kyubi. Now the ritual that I went through had him push raw demon chakra into me while performing a blood ritual. This last attempt by them is the 5th time they have tried to take Erishur and or Haku. Hikari Bachan, who is the Kyubi's mother and leader of the Fox Demon Clan, has threatened them that if they don't stop, then there would be war. This would be bad for the Yukiana. Since that over the years their numbers have dropped while the Fox clan had been increasing. From all the information that we have gathered, that Erishur, since he will most likely have both of our bloodlines, my weapon bloodline and Haku's Hayaton, ice release, he would be a perfect tool to revive their dying clan, and since Haku in their eyes is somewhat from their clan and married out of it, should be punished." Kurenai looked over at Haku with sympathy in her eyes. Irika growled at this news. He had talked with Haku several times since he would help her take care of Erishur while Naruto was out on missions. He had grown fond of her since Naruto was his younger brother that made her his sister-in-law in a way. To him, Haku was one of the sweetest girl that you could ever find. That was until you made her angry. Then you pity the poor soul that made her mad. Kurenai sighed before asking, "And the keepers? What exactly are they?" Naruto had poured some sake while Irika was lost in thought. He took a sip and sighed. They are known as the Keeper of the Dead. No one really knows their history, but they are known to hang out around ancient burial grounds. Individually, they are pretty weak, but if they attack in a fairly large number, they can be a handful. Kurenai and Irika nodded in understand. Look, I need to run. I am needed at Tsunade's office. He got up and gave Haku a quick passionate kiss before grabbing his gear and kissing Erasure on the head. When Naruto arrived at the Hokage's office, he noticed several other jonins, and a few A and Bus were standing at attention, waiting for the meeting to start. They didn't have to wait too long when Tsunade cleared her voice. I am sorry for calling this meeting on such short notice, but our spy network has informed us that Odo is on the move again and gearing up for war with us again. That and the Fire Daimyo and his entourage are going to be here tomorrow, so I want everyone alert. Everyone nodded before leaving the office. Naruto, I want to talk to you for a second. Naruto walked over and sat down in a chair in front of the desk. There is going to be another high-ranking figure arriving tomorrow. Unfortunately, there was no information about from where per se, only that Hikari no Yoko vouches for them. Do you have any idea who is coming and for what purpose? Naruto looked a little confused before replying. I have not a clue. Hikari Bachan hasn't informed me on anything since a few months ago, but it was only an update on my family's business over in the village. Tsunade quietly nodded before her eyebrow rose. Wait, what businesses? Naruto sighed and leaned back into the chair. While I was in the Fox village, I set up a small business and left it in the care of a close and trusted friend. It deals with battleware. According to the report, it has flourished into one of the best stores for at least the warrior caste. Tsunade smiled before nodding. Okay, well, just for good luck, I want you to be here at 9 a.m. when both the Fire Daimyo and this unknown figure. Naruto nodded before leaving the office and quietly made his way back to his apartment. As Naruto walked down the main road, he was racking his brain at who was coming that had Hikari Bachan's favor. He thought the only ones that she knew in this world were him and his family. Naruto was so wrapped up in thought that he didn't hear that someone calling him. Of course, he found out that someone was trying to talk to him by slapping him across the back of his head. Ino Yamanaka had been looking for Naruto for most of the morning and decided to check the Hokage's tower to see if he went to receive a mission. She soon found him walking down the main road deep in thought. She had called his name several times with no reaction, which only ticked her off. She finally gave up and yelled his name again before slapping the back of his head. Naruto stumbled forward and twirled around while rubbing his head. What the hell? Oh, hi Ino-chan, what can I do for you? The tick mark on Ino's forehead grew slightly bigger before taking a deep breath, trying to calm down. Yeah, I've been looking for you for a while now. What the hell did you do to Asuma-sensei? Ever since you got back, he has been lashing out at us. Naruto's eyes narrowed at her comment. Has he hurt any of you? Ino looked at him worried. Well, no, but he has come close a few times to hurting me. Naruto, what happened to him? Naruto sighed before running his hand through his hair. He is pissed that Kurenai and Irika hooked up since he believes that he is the only one that Kurenai can date. That and the fact that I threatened to string him up and slice off his manhood if he tried anything to her after I heard what he did to her that led to them breaking up. I can't believe he would take it out on you. Look, if he does it again, come and find me, and I will talk to him. Ino looked at Naruto and smiled. Thanks, Naruto-kun, I will. I am just worried. I have never seen him act like this before, and it kind of scares me. I don't want to get him in trouble, but... Naruto just patted Ino's shoulder. Don't worry, Ino, everything will be okay. Is there anything else I can help you with? I wanted to get some training in today. No, thank you again, Naruto-kun. I have to hurry back home. It is my turn to run the shop. Thanks again. With that, Ino ran off. Naruto shrugged as he quickly made his way towards a nearby training ground and started to train. He had been training for most of the day before returning back to his apartment to find Haku working by the stove. Erasure was in his high chair babbling happily watching his mother cook. Naruto walked up and gave Haku a quick peck on the cheek. Hello Hakuheim, how was your day? Haku couldn't help but give a slight giggle, and Erasure made another sound and laughed. It was okay. Anko came by and asked for a few parenting tips, but other than that, nothing much. Now go get a shower before dinner is ready. Naruto smiled and nodded before giving another kiss. After they ate and laid Erasure down for the night, Haku and Naruto sat down in the living room to discuss some things. Naruto informed Haku about what Tsunade told him after the meeting, to which Haku told him that Hikari Bachan hadn't contacted her either. Naruto gave Haku a small smirk before picking her up and giving her a deep, passionate kiss. XXXXX Lemon Scene XXXXX. Naruto carried into their bedroom and laid her down on the bed. His lips crashed against hers in a tight kiss. Shocked, Haku didn't react at first, but moments later her mind registered what was happening and she began to kiss back. His tongue was finding an entrance into her mouth, which she granted. His tongue met hers, and they both fought for dominance. Naruto then broke the kiss after a few minutes and proceeded to remove the ice blue kimono she was wearing. He stared at her almost see-through net shirt that was clinging tightly on her shapely body. So beautiful, he thought. Seeing Naruto pause, she quickly removed the shirt that he was wearing and ran her hands over his well-toned chest and abs. Then she began to unbuckle his belt, but was stopped by his hand. He picked her up bridal style and went into the bedroom. Naruto dropped her on the bed and went on top of her. He then kissed her again, and their tongues met. His hands traveled down her back to her butt and gave it a squeeze. Haku gave a soft moan as his hands traveled back up to her back. Naruto then broke the kiss and began to lift up the net shirt. With a yank, it came off the top of her head, leaving her chest bare. He kissed her again, and then slowly traveled down to her neck and her collarbone, kissing all the way. Naruto then took one of her nipples in his mouth, sucking on it and swirling his tongue over the erect nipple. Haku gasped and arched her head back and pulled his head closer to her chest. His hands traveled on to her unattended breast and began to message it and pinching the nipple. Moans escaped from her mouth as Naruto worked his way down to her flat stomach and back up to her breasts again. Naruto's hands then roamed down from her stomach to her panties, and with a hard yank it came off. He could feel his dick become hard, begging to be released from the prison that was his trousers. So he unbuckled his belt and took off his trousers and was in his boxers. Naruto then moved to kiss her again while his right hand traveled to the inside of Haku's thighs and began rubbing them. Then he brought his hand more to the left and was suddenly in contact with her panties. Haku gasped when Naruto began to rub his middle finger around her womanhood while kissing her neck. He could feel his finger becoming wet from her love juices. He then proceeded to remove the already wet panties and inserted his finger into her hole. Her hips arched, and she let out a loud moan as he began to move the finger in and out. He was about to add another finger when she stopped him. "Please, I want you now," Haku said seductively. Naruto got out of his boxers, which looked like it was about to explode, and positioned himself near her entrance. Then in one quick move Naruto slammed his member inside her, which made her cry out. He began to thrust in and out, making her moan and say his name loudly. "Faster, Naruto. Faster. Harder. Harder," Haku yelled to him. Without a word, he sped up his thrusts and went deeper inside her. "AH. AH. 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 Give it to me," Haku yelled at the top of her lungs. This only turned him on more. Naruto began to pump faster than before until he could feel her wall muscles tighten around his member. "I'm coming," Haku yelled. "Me too," Naruto yelled at the same time, and they both orgasmed at the same time. Exhausted, he fell next to her, and soon they were fast asleep. XXXXX Lemon and XXXXX. Morning came too quickly for the two of them, and soon they got up, but not before another quickie and showered. While Haku got dressed in one of her finer kimonos, it was one of the few that Hikari had sent for her. She had gotten Erasure up and dressed in something nice. All the while Naruto got into his best shinobi attire and got ready to meet up with Tsunade at her office. They ate a quick breakfast before Naruto disappeared in a swirl of wind. Tsunade and her escorts, Naruto, Sasuke, and Hinata. Since they were three of the strongest ninjas in the village and Hinata was her apprentice, waited outside the Hokage Tower as a carriage flanked by well-armed samurais approached. It was the fire daimyo, the person who ruled the fire country and determined funding for Konoha. Tokudaiji Kinzo was riding into Konoha to discuss about the upcoming war with Odo and to see how the hidden village was coming. Being a man of 56 years of age, Kinzo sometimes found himself remembering the past. He had been born in Konoha and for the longest of time dreamed of being a ninja and bring honor to his family. Unfortunately, his family wouldn't allow that since he was next in line for the daimyo. Looking out the window, seeing the young children running along, trying to find out what was going on brought a smile to his face. He looked at his own daughter Kikiko, who just sighed and stared out the window, not really interested in why they were here. She just wanted out of the castle. When the carriage pulled up to Hokage Tower, he noticed Tsunade standing in front of 3 young people. He recognized 2 of them, Hyuga Hinata, Tsunade's second apprentice, and Uchiha Sasuke, the head of the Uchiha clan. He didn't recognize the third one, but he could tell just by looking at the way the young man was standing. Kinzo smiled as he approached Tsunade and her escorts who were bowing in respect. "It is good to see you again, Tsunade-san. I see your apprentice and Uchiha-san with you, but I don't recognize this young man. What is your name, young man?" Naruto stood up and politely said, "My name is Uzumaki Naruto Tokudaiji-sama." Kinzo smiled. He had heard of this young man from his previous talks with Tsunade. "Also, you are the infamous Naruto I have been told about. It is good to finally put a face to the name." Naruto looked over at Tsunade with a raised eyebrow. "Well, now let me introduce my beautiful daughter, Tokudaiji Kikiko." Kikiko gave a weary smile before bowing. "Now shall we go in, Tsunade-san?" Right as they were about to head inside, the crowd started to whisper as another royal carriage approached the Hokage Tower, flanked this time by warriors in gold armor, some carrying spears, others had swords. "I forgot there was another royal person arriving today. Have you found anything about them?" Tsunade sighed because she had sent Jiraiya out to find that information and he had not been able to find out anything. "Unfortunately, Tokudaiji-sama, we haven't, but we believe that Naruto-kun here is involved." Naruto's eyebrow started to twitch. He had been trying to figure out who this person was, but Hikari-bachan was never there. Tsunade sighed and walked forward to greet them. "Welcome to Konoha. My name is Senju Tsunade. I am the 5th Hokage leader of this village." One of the escorts, who must have been an elite among the soldiers, stepped forwards and removed his helmet. The man looked roughly in his mid to late 20s, his brown hair and deep green eyes. "Thank you for the warm welcome, Lady Tsunade. My name is Abner Kalinsu. I am the head of security for Milady." Naruto was smiling when he saw Abner. "It is good to see you, Abner. I must admit this is a surprise. How is the family doing?" Everyone turned to see Naruto walking to the soldier like he knew him. Abner turned and bowed towards Naruto, and soon the rest of the escort bowed as well. "It is good to see you again, Lord Naruto. They are doing fine, but little AI is missing you." Naruto couldn't help but remember the little 5-year-old that had swore that when she grew up they would be together. "So, Abner, what can I do for you?" At this, everyone heard a female giggle from within the carriage. Naruto didn't react at first, but something clicked and his eyes widened. "I would hope you haven't forgotten about me, Narukoi." The carriage door opened to reveal a young woman roughly 18 to 20 and had long red hair that stopped mid-back. She had a body that any woman would kill for. She was wearing a very formal kimono. "It has been a long time since we last met, hasn't it?" Naruto smiled and walked up to her and kneeled. "That it has, Hitomi Haim." The crowd started to whisper and mutter when they saw Naruto kneeling. Here was one of the strongest shinobi in the village bowing to someone other than the Hokage or the fire daimyo. Tsunade, curious of what is happening, cleared her voice. "Naruto, if it is not too much to ask, but who is she?" One of the guards thought that Tsunade was insulting Hitomi and went to attack her. "Stand down, soldier," Naruto said in a commanding tone that shocked the crowd. "My apologize, Tsunade-sama. Let me introduce everyone. Tsunade, meet Lady Hitomi Akamatsu. She is the princess of the Akawengu, Red Wing, clan." Tsunade blinked before quickly asking Naruto a simple question. "Is the Akawengu clan a demon clan or human?" Tokudaiji Kinzo was confused at Tsunade's question. Naruto smiled before standing up and stood beside Hitomi. The Akawangu clan is in fact a demon clan. They are allied with the Kitsune demon tribe. But I am curious to why you decided to visit Lady Hitomi. Hitomi smiled before reaching into the carriage and pulling out a small scroll and handed it to Naruto. "San, father, told me to give that to you. Plus I wanted to visit you and your family." Naruto smiled and opened the scroll and started to read. "Wait, this is..." Naruto scanned the scroll several times over before looking at Hitomi. "You mean he actually agreed to it?" "Yep, he and Hikari-sama signed the treaty and agreed to that little part. So I will be in your care, now please take care of me." With that, Hitomi and her escort bowed in front of Naruto, who was smiling like a loon. Life in Konoha is going to be very interesting. First thing first, I am going to need a bigger house. Naruto thought, still smiling. "Welcome to the family, Hitomi-chan." Naruto knelt down and kissed her passionately.
That's it for today. Remember to show your support to the creator of this story if you enjoyed it. If you would like more parts of the story to be uploaded, leave a comment and subscribe to get notified when the story continues. Bye-bye for now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.